Welcome back to Sunday Vibes 1 and we're in the pub, the trio's here, and there are some shorts. Don't know what happened with my vocals
Connery.
there. Sean Connery turned up. Some shorts on the show because it's about 42 degrees in London today. It's so hot, you must be boiling.
It's not hot. It's fine.
So hot.
It's fine. It's in
Bloody
Sri Lanka too.
such
You just
a-
came back from Dubai. How are you too hot?
Well,
You're such a cold weather guy though, aren't you, Van
Yeah,
Strohe?
you
I
are.
love the cold weather.
Super
mate.
cold-blooded.
Oh.
Proper reptile.
Get that beard out. Get me in a waffle knit. Oh.
Igloo.
what's a waffle knit?
You know, I don't have time to explain this. Let's just move on.
Yeah, let's move on to the first question anyway. It comes from Joe Benfield7 on Twitter, and he says, excluding Mo Salah, who has been the Premier League signing of the season? It's a really good question. Pato, you leading us off? Leading the charge?
Yes, I like this one. I'm going to go for Pascal Gross. Last summer we said he was an underrated midfielder. This summer we have been proved right. He's been absolutely amazing, and if Brighton stay up, which it looks like they will, I think that they've pretty much got him to thank. He's got 6 goals, 8 assists in the league. That means he's been involved in more league goals than Mesut Ozil, about 3 fewer than Heung-min Son, who's had an amazing season and is playing for a much, much better side. His delivery from set pieces is great, but also produces chances from open play. I think Glenn Murray and Izquierdo's success this season has mostly been down to him. He also defends well, I think like 3 tackles and interceptions per 90. He just really knits that team together. And, you know, lest we forget as well, he's 26, so he's peak years. And if you're that kind of team, you need that one person who drives your attack. For Stoke, it's been Shaqiri, but their defence has been so bad it's let them down. You know, for a team like Leicester are better overall, but, you know, Mahrez is that guy. And I think Gross is performing a similar role, admittedly, in a slightly inferior side. His numbers are incredible. 1.5 million quid, I think they paid for him from Ingolstadt. And when you think how much Premier League survival is going to be worth to a club like Brighton,
Yeah.
it seems to me like there cannot be a better value signing this summer than that.
He was in the top 10 creators, wasn't he, in Europe, in terms
Yeah,
of chances
Ingolstadt.
created
Yeah.
prior to joining. So
It's
it's a
like
really
3.5
savvy bit of
chances.
business, wasn't it? Yeah.
Absolutely nuts. And yeah, like it looks like he'll be in the centre of that team for at least 3 or 4 years to come.
Yeah, if they can keep hold of him. That is. I mean, if somebody might come in for him this summer, you
Well,
never
staying
know.
up will
Sure.
give them some money, and who knows, if they build, maybe he'll be interested in the project.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go for a slightly more obvious candidate. I think I'll go for Kyle Walker. We spoke about him on last episode of Sunday Vibes as well. But his seamless transition from Tottenham into a completely different system at Manchester City has been brilliant. He has been fantastic positionally, great going forward, much better on the ball than I was expecting. So I'm sure Pep Guardiola will be delighted. He's made his £50 million price tag seem justified. I think that's one of the biggest compliments you can pay to a fullback.
Yeah.
So Kyle Walker definitely in there for me, and obviously Edison as well. I think he's kept 14 clean sheets, although he has got a very good defence in front of him and a system that doesn't concede shots. So that does help him a little bit. I think they've actually conceded the 17th most shots in the league or something like that, which is awesome for a Manchester City team that last season I think Claudio Bravo kept 5 clean sheets. So he'll be delighted with the transition Edison's made from Portugal. I for one, I was 50-50 on the move. There've been clear failings in the goalkeeping department at Man City for the last 2 or 3 seasons. So when they brought in Edison, who was unproven in a major league in Europe, I thought it was a risk, but it's a risk that's paid off amazingly for Pep Guardiola.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you.
Yeah, I had my reservations at the start of the season as well, but after speaking to Benfica fans who know all about good goalkeepers, especially in the modern era, having Jan Oblak come through the team as well, they were insistent that he'd be a smash hit.
Yeah.
And they've been proved right. Portuguese people know their football, don't they? And I've been impressed with how the additional pressure of the failed Claudio Bravo experiment hasn't really fazed him. And he's kind of stuck to his guns, and he's become a real asset to Manchester City with his distribution. I'm going to go for, first one that springs to mind is Davinson Sanchez. We thought £30 million was a lot of money at the start of the summer, didn't we? Especially for someone who was playing in the Eredivisie, again, similar sort of level to the Liga NOS. Impressed in that run to the Europa League final for sure, but so did De Ligt, you know, and no one was sort of bidding for him from the £30 million point of view, although he might be going to Barcelona now for £40 million, even more so at this point. But yeah, he's slotted seamlessly into that Tottenham back line, hasn't he? Especially in the absence of Alderweireld, which is no mean feat. Yes, Vertonghen has made PFA Team of the Year, probably through consistency more than anything else, but a lot of the stand-out performances that I've seen in that Tottenham defence, particularly against big sides, have come from Davinson Sanchez. I mean, he's got a 90% pass accuracy, so he's very composed on the ball, very much in that Dutch mould. Maybe a little bit more culture than people give him credit for. He's completing 5.5 clearances as well, so does the dirty work. Probably, you know, through sheer athleticism and speed. Like when they get hit on the counter, because Tottenham's fullbacks are obviously positioned so high, they need someone like him to mop up, don't they? So yeah, I mean, in terms of the Premier League, I think they're three pretty good candidates. Did you want to foray into Europe?
Yeah, should we have a little wander over? I think potentially an opening shout, Tolisso.
Sure.
Bayern Munich, I didn't have him down upon signing as being a starting name on the team sheet at Bayern Munich, let alone the levels he's produced this season. But then he has been partly helped out by the fact that Thiago is so consistently injured. It now looks like a fantastic signing, doesn't it? At what, £40 million? I think he's still the Bayern Munich record transfer right at this stage. So I think that looks like a really tidy bit of business. I don't really know that many other options that we haven't spoke about in depth.
Yeah, well that's the thing. I mean, like, the obvious candidate would be someone like Irving Lozano.
Yeah.
He's the only new signing I can think of who's actually delivered his club the league. But we've talked about him in quite a lot of depth, and I don't think he's been as good since January as he was before. In fact, I think that there are other players in the Eredivisie you'd want to highlight more. But there are a lot of guys who moved, I think, not necessarily in the summer, but like in January before that. So like, I think David Neres did. I think Leon Bailey did. Luka Milivojevic, I think he might have. Those kind of players, yeah. Memphis
Van Ginkel's been great in that PSV side as well, hasn't he?
Yeah.
14 goals, 4 assists this season. I think he managed 7 goals in 15 appearances the season before after joining on loan. And there's a couple of people that have really come to the fore in the Premier League as well, kind of following their first season, right? Like Tarkowski at Brentford. I think he probably deserved a place in PFA Team of the Year. Robertson at Liverpool, he's been great since January, and you know, everyone's quick to heap praise on Van Dijk for this sort of defence, the defensive turnaround at Liverpool, but he's been a large part of that. Up and down the field, probably has the best engine in the Premier League. Big fan of Skriniar as well at Inter. We talked about him before, weren't we? And there's a couple of good shouts at Valencia, but I think we've spoken about Kondogbia and Guedes at length, haven't we? Yeah. So can you think of any others? Obviously Neymar and Mbappe are obvious candidates.
Yeah, I mean Neymar's done all right, hasn't he? I think he's been involved in about 40 goals already, so it's fairly obvious. But other than that, I don't think there's been that many outstanding. Partly down to the fact that Real Madrid didn't make any major signings, so there's no standouts there. You look at Barcelona's major outlay on Ousmane Dembele. He spent 6 months injured, isn't it? And Coutinho joined in January. He spent another month injured.
Paulinho, 8 goals, 2 assists, 20 starts.
That's not too bad. They'd be delighted with that outlay. Although he did cost 40 mil, didn't he?
Dropped off a little bit recently, hasn't he? What about Bas Dost? Is it his second season or his first season?
I think it's his second season. It's his second season, but yeah, he continues to bang goals in. I mean, you think about Ruben Neves maybe at Wolves, but my issue there is kind of that it's not like a genius move for them to pick up Ruben Neves. Like if you can afford Ruben Neves and you're a championship side and you can get him, then you get him. Like that's not amazing insight. So yeah, I don't know. Like there has been generally, I think, pretty good business actually. Like I can think of more successes than flops really this season.
Yeah. But I would say like some of the successes are that sort of mid-range price. They're not necessarily the £150 million player. They're more like the 30, 40 million pounders that have been really good. Like I actually think Benjamin Mendy would have been one of the biggest successes as well had he not picked up that serious injury. He started the season really well, didn't he? So I think that there are some unfortunate candidates. Ousmane Dembele might have been really good as well. He's a very, very injury prone. Coutinho, he's had injuries since he joined Barcelona. So there's loads of other candidates that we've probably forgotten as well. But if you guys can think of any, why don't you let us know in the comments below, because 100% we've missed a really obvious person there. Before we go to the next question, you know what time it is. It's hot takes time. Roll that VT.
Okay, so I'm taking on this week's hot takes. Get ready for some rock and roll. First one's from Minehal Magandi, or Magande, do apologise. He said, Thierry Henry is the best player never to win the Ballon d'Or. Definitely should have won it in 03 over Pau Nedved. 1,000,000%. Henry, 03, was by far he was unquestionably the greatest player on the planet during that period. I think that was a season that he got the most assists, that record's still never been broken. He definitely was top goal scorer during that season. I guarantee you, if he'd have done what he did in La Liga or in Serie A, they would have like presented to him on like a golden, like, I don't even know what they would have done, but it was just like, without shadow of a doubt, Henry should have won the Ballon d'Or at least twice. First time definitely in 03, potentially in 06 as well, if two things would have gone a different way. Obviously, if Arsenal would have won the Champions League, which we were so close to doing, and obviously if France would have won the World Cup, which again they were so close to doing. But honestly, 2003, Henry was hands down the greatest player on the planet for that year. So it was an absolute injustice. It was arguably the greatest injustice in football history. Yes, I said it. This one is from Ryan Hardy. Roy Keane is the best midfielder of all time. Roy Keane is not even the best midfielder from Manchester United. Paul Scholes, arguably, not my opinion, he was probably the greatest midfielder of all time. I don't know what position you saw Zinedine Zidane, but for me, he was the greatest midfielder of all time. So yes, Roy Keane is definitely not the best midfielder of all time. Very, 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 very good player, particularly of people of my generation who are a little bit older than some of the other FD boys. I remember Roy Keane as an absolute titan, but is he the best midfielder of all time? Definitely not. Definitely not. He's not even the best midfielder of Manchester United. This next one's from Joe Durston. Salah is better than Messi. Mate, what? Messi's the greatest of all time. Full stop, close the book, end the conversation. In 500 years' time, we'll look back and go, Lionel Messi, greatest player of all time. Salah has been amazing this season, but it's Messi. It's Messi. It's done. Next one is from Paddy Jackaman. Great name, Paddy. Arsenal have the worst fans in the league. Well, it's quite difficult for me to argue against this. Okay, so here's a little anecdote. The last time I was at the Emirates, I was up quite high up and Arsenal were losing, surprise, surprise. And there was a guy there who was trying to get the crowd going. You know, he was off his feet, he was singing his heart out, trying to get a bit of atmosphere, trying to get our team, a team that every single person in that stadium, that bowl of a stadium, supposedly loves. But the way that this man was kind of like treated was absolutely disgusting by Arsenal's home fans. I saw it and I was absolutely ashamed that this is the way that my club has become, because he was looked at like he's doing something wrong, rather than the people sitting down, not giving a on their phone, tweeting and sexting or whatever the they were doing, all right, making this guy feel ashamed that he is singing and showing some passion for the club that he's probably supported for the majority of his life. It was absolutely disgusting. And when I see things like that, I have no argument to say that yes, Arsenal probably do have the worst fans in the league. And it's such a shame. Because I also remember going to Highbury as a kid, and it was such a amazing atmosphere. I cannot even explain. So close to the pitch. It was amazing. And we've sold our soul for a bit of Yankee dollar. Quite literally some Yankee dollar. So thank you. Thank you. Next one's from Juan Sebastian Goes. Doogie is the most underrated member of Football Daily. Well, Doogie probably is a bit underrated, but I'll tell you the most underrated member of Football Daily is Tuesday Derby. Absolute legend. Like, this team would be absolutely with her. She goes literally above and beyond every single week, never moans, gives 110%. You know, she's got the heart, she's got the passion, and yeah, she's probably the most underrated member. She's probably not, I don't even think she's ever been on screen. So shout out Tuesday. Okay, so that was Hot Takes. Thank you so much for sending in your opinions. Love reading them, particularly that who said that Salah's better than Messi. I'll probably see you on next week's VFN. Peace.
The next question was sent in by Swagato Saka. Big up. He says, which stadium do you wish you could visit and which teams do you want to see playing? Patrick Van Straten, you're a maniac. It's got written down here, Pat, North Korea's Rungdao 1st of May Stadium. 150,000 capacity.
Yeah.
What do you want to go to North Korea for, you weirdo?
Well, it's made up. It's a made up stadium, so I want to visit it and prove.
What do you mean it's
alive.
made up? It's not made up.
Chill with the great leader. You can be like a Football Daily's Dennis Rodman.
It's meant to. Well, yeah, that would actually be cool.
That would be class.
I am the Dennis Rodman of this. I don't know. Like, I just think that like I don't really care about visiting stadiums. I think they're boring. Like, they are like, oh, I would love to go and do a tour of Wembley. I did that when I was a kid. It was dull. Like, so at least if you go to North Korea, you're gonna have a day out. And
you're not gonna have a day out. You're gonna be marshalled around by a team of North Korean agents. No photos taken.
What about all the other YouTube stars who got to go to North Korea, mate, and then they came home and said, oh, it's a paradise. Everyone's so happy. Why weren't we those shills? Those people getting paid to lie for money.
Out of minds, mate.
What are they
and also
thinking?
they're all stupid.
All drugged up.
They're all thick as pig as well. The only group of people worse than YouTubers are Vine stars. They're all dimwits. But
Man,
yeah,
Strawn's
anyway,
gone in.
Anyway, North Korea is just a weird place full of like pretty unhappy people, and they've built this huge stadium which serves absolutely no function whatsoever.
Well, they
because it's a closed border.
Yeah, they must have football matches in it. Otherwise, why build it?
No, I reckon they probably do like
Army parades and
synchronized dancing and stuff.
Yeah,
you know, like
army parades.
whatever Kim Jong Un is just feeling like on that day. So he's just like, it's like that episode of Rick and Morty, you know, where he's like, where his girlfriend like controls the entire planet, and he's like, fill a stadium full of redheads and guys who look like my dad. like that's what I imagine Kim Jong Un just does.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, that's not what I would have gone for. I would maybe
No,
go.
we definitely went down the rabbit hole there.
Yeah.
I'd love to go and
I'll go San Siro.
see a match at Dortmund.
No, I don't. Yeah, maybe the best
Come on,
one.
you listen to your nonsense about North Korea.
That's because I gave an
Come on,
interesting
just
answer.
don't be rude. Yeah, I'll go San Siro. I'll go San Siro into AC game. I think that'd be absolutely banging.
Great.
Although you've raised a good point. Westfalenstadion in the yellow wall, I think. One.
Yeah.
Also, you're closer in like the Westfalenstadion. Like one of my issues when you watch Italian football is because they've got like the tracks around the outside the pitch. I feel like you're always really far away from the action.
Yeah.
San
So
Siro
I like
doesn't
to
have
be.
a track,
I
does
like
it?
to be close.
San Siro doesn't have a track.
I don't know. I think at the ends. I think it does have like you're quite far away.
Whenever I think of Italian football, I think of the Olimpico and
Yeah,
like
it's
Totti
that-
having to run like 50 yards to celebrate a goal with the
Yeah,
fans. I think I'd go for La Bombonera,
Yeah, that's a good shout.
Boca Juniors, and it translates in English as the chocolate box. And there are a lot of rumours as to why this is Van Straat. You're not the only one with fun anecdotes about your stadium, although yours are a little bit more feminine.
Why is it called a chocolate box?
It's because apparently the guy who was designing the stadium was gifted a chocolate box by his friend, and he took it to a meeting with the engineer with him, and they thought that shape looks cool. But it's
Forrest
That is
Gump built that
insane.
stadium.
That is
but
insane.
I mean it's probably bull, isn't it?
Yeah, it's probably
But the acoustics there are supposed to be mad. Like it's referred to as the 12th man, and I think it's a 49,000 seater, and they produce a lot of noise, don't they?
The super classic.
Yeah, Boca River Plate would be flipping unreal.
Yeah.
So that's my shout.
I tell you what, Celtic
any
Park.
others?
I wouldn't say no to Celtic Park in the standing section. I reckon that'd be a
With
really
the Jungle
atmosphere
Boys.
in an old firm.
Yeah.
I don't think
You're not
that-
about
that-
safe standing, are you?
The Jungle Boys. No, I'm fine with safe standing. I don't have an issue with it. I think you should
No,
be.
but I think you'd prefer to sit, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like a football match.
A little bit Bovril.
What if you just zone out? You know, it's just like, oh god, I'm watching. Whenever the team that's not Celtic have the ball, I'm not going to want to watch them, am I?
Oh no, we're going
It's
for a
gonna make me
Champions
sad.
League night. We're not
Oh,
going to
right,
watch
okay.
Celtic Partick.
No, Celtic Rangers
thank
though.
Christ.
I'm not doing the 8-hour trip.
I'd rather
that.
go Celtic Rangers than Celtic Anderlecht.
Yeah, but that's just like watching Celtic play like their youth team, but not
Yeah.
good.
Maybe
No,
maybe
bro.
not at the minute, but yeah, I'm still yet to go to an Old Firm derby because, funnily enough, that is when the tickets from my Scottish family aren't available. You
There's
know,
a surprise.
they're like, Chris, do you want to go to Celtic Aberdeen? I'm like, well, thanks, but
No.
What about the Bernabeu?
because
Because we've obviously been to the Nou Camp. The Nou Camp game we saw was
Santiago.
unbelievable, wasn't it? When we had
Yeah.
the amazing seats, Messi scored the hat trick.
yeah, it was unbelievable as well because we were full of great tapas and like
Yeah.
10 cerveza por favors.
God, that was great.
Yeah, that was such a good
The
day. but
Emirates is good because
I only watched the game with one eye.
not the Emirates, bro.
You
I've
can
been
have
to the
a-
Emirates a few times.
You can have a little quiet sleep at the
Oh.
Emirates, which is nice, and that's what I like. Really, it's easy to get home.
We went to a Champions League night at the Emirates where they were playing Bayern Munich, and the comparison between the travelling fans and the home fans was embarrassing.
Because who were we about? Was it
Yeah, I just
Basel?
don't
Was it
care.
Basel?
No, it's Bayern Munich.
Oh,
you
yeah,
went,
it was,
you
yeah.
went for the bowl game as well, didn't
Yeah, but yeah, it's just.
And you
Pato,
said
I
they
approve
were
of that. I just like to take the paper. along.
Pato
Just ignore
actually
the game.
hates the
you?
atmosphere.
One game in
think
one,
it's just
one
overrated.
stadium in England then, or in the UK.
Yeah, Celtic Park,
Good choice.
Old Firm.
Oh my god, it's a rough one.
Anfield on European night as well.
Yeah, I'd go to Anfield.
Yeah,
I would
yeah.
want-
I've not been to Anfield yet.
I'd like to hear
Rocking.
You'll Never Walk Alone in Anfield. That'd be amazing.
The reception the Man City got as well. They're, you know, they've upped their
Yeah.
game recently, haven't they? Good shout.
in a big way. Nobody saying the Etihad?
No, you get a seat though.
Dead.
You get 10 seats.
Dead.
The final question of the day was sent in by David Davis. He says, are
Double
there any
B.
footballing legends that aren't as good as people remember? This has basically come off the back, if people aren't aware, of a tweet sent by Christophe Terreur saying about Zidane's statistics.
What do you think?
I've got that. It's fine.
It's nice.
Like JJ
It's, good,
Kocher.
it's a good bit of leg. It's a better bit of leg
You've
than
got
mine.
thick legs. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
Tree
Stumpy.
trunks.
It's a good leg. Anyway, should we carry on the question?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
right, sure, whatever.
anyway, this
More
basically
important things,
this basically comes off the back of a tweet sent by Christophe Terreur. He said Zidane scored 125 goals in 681 games. Michael Cox replied, amazing tournament player, but pretty inconsistent throughout most league campaigns.
I think that's
So,
pretty fair.
are there any other footballing legends other than Zidane, according to Michael Cox, that were overrated?
Yeah, I mean,
We'd
like,
have to go a bit more modern era, wouldn't we?
yeah, well, it's not that much more modern to say the guy I want to do is just Didier Drogba. Like, Didier Drogba, I actually don't think Pele's overrated. I know we talk about that, but I think he's actually...
It's more of a joke,
I
isn't it?
think
It's
he's
more of a running joke.
Quite good.
Go on.
Okay, Didier Drogba, let me just read you the number of goals he scored in his league campaigns at Chelsea, right? 10, 12, 20, 8, 5, 29, 11, 5. Those are his league campaigns at Chelsea. So I count 2 good years in there. 2 good years. Like, that's absolutely mental. And yet people talk about him as if he's like Chelsea's answer to Henry, or I don't know, like,
But he's a little bit like Zidane, though, you could argue. If that's the statistics we're bringing up about Zidane, that he was an amazing tournament player, but not potentially the most consistent. On his day, Drogba was the best striker in world football.
Yeah, he absolutely was.
Nobody wanted to play against him. He would win you games and tournaments
Yeah.
by himself. The same with Zidane.
but you might have won more league titles with a guy who's more consistent over the course of a season. Like, look,
not so sure you would.
Like, look, so someone like Higuain, for instance, not good in the big games, whereas Drogba is. Over the course of a season, much more consistent goal scorer, and arguably Chelsea would have won even more titles with a striker like that.
And even Rooney at the tail end of his career, when he started to get a bad rap, was still hitting like 12, wasn't he? There's a couple of 5s in there. That's
Yeah, 5 is a really damning season. I mean, we've
That's
battered
poor.
Alvaro
That was
Morata
in, that was in
Munich.
like 25 appearances in the league.
We've battered Morata this season, and I think maybe Drogba was helped out a little bit by the lack of coverage. If he was on social
didn't ever
media
catch
in the
Drogba,
nowadays,
drying his girlfriend's hair the day before a game.
No.
There are arguments to be made in his defence here, right? So you could point out, for instance, that Lampard often took penalties, and also when you've got so many goals coming from deep midfield, that there was less of an onus on Drogba just to be a kind of tap-in merchant.
Yeah.
So you can make that argument. But when people talk about him as if he was like one of the best strikers of the 2000s, I find that absolutely insane. Like, I think that Drogba gets the credit that people like, say, Batistuta or Henrik Larsson, like, probably deserve a lot more. They were much better rounded players. They were certainly much better goal scorers. To be honest, if I wanted a guy up front to bully defenders, I'd want Didier Drogba. If I wanted a guy up front to put the ball in the back of the net, he wouldn't even be in my top 10.
But what do you guys at home think about Pato's suggestion of Didier Drogba? I think it's a pretty risky one. And are there any other legends that are overrated? Let us know in the comments below. But that's all the time we've got on Sunday Vibes today because the camera's about to run out of battery.
And it's sunny. Pub
it's sunny.
Gardens.
We want to go out. So unfortunately, we've
So
cut
long.
Sunday Vibes short. Anything else happening on FD quickly?
No.
No?
Nah.
Nah. Bye.